you all the next part of our wonderful presentation today.
Thank you. So I am Dr. Hillary Duckworth. I work for Cherokee Health Systems here in Knoxville and in sort of surrounding counties. I'll tell you, I guess, a little bit more about Cherokee and then a little bit more about why I'm here today to talk a little bit about caring for yourself, caring for others, and promoting community wellness, which is a big sort of mission of Cherokee Health Systems. And we do that through integrated primary care, integrated community health programs, where we have a mix of both physical and behavioral health services offered to all of our patients and members. And so that's sort of our mission and our belief, and that's the foundation of my presentation for you guys today. We do a lot of population-based care, wanting to meet people where they are in the community. We do a lot of values-based care and community outcomes, and we want to improve overall health outcomes through integrating various things into health care. Okay. Am I loud enough? I think I can get a little bit louder. I'm sorry. This is intimidating me, so I can get a little bit louder for everybody. My first question is always talking about and defining what is health. And the World Health Organization changed that definition for us in 2003. And so most often when we talk about health, we think of physical health, we think of medical doctors and medical providers and interventions. But we really have expanded that definition, especially in the past decade or more, to really include both physical, mental health, and social well-being, not just disease. So because we believe that health is all of those things, we want to promote those by encouraging everyone to care for themselves, for others, and for health and wellness within communities. And so why is it important to take care of ourselves? Sorry? Quality of life, right? One of the analogies that I use a lot with our patients, family members, providers, caregivers, is this idea of an airplane trip. So if you've ever flown on an airplane, you sit down in your seat and you get a little more comfortable, figure out who you're sitting next to, and they review all those safety guidelines with you. And one of the first things that they're going to talk to you about is this oxygen mask. And does anyone know what they say specifically about the oxygen mask? Absolutely. So that is why it's so important to take care of ourselves, because if we don't put that oxygen mask on ourselves first, we can't do anything for anyone else. So you always put the oxygen mask on yourself, and then you can help other passengers and children. Once we have a good air supply, we can have a nice, steady landing. And so one of the biggest impacts one of the things that impacts health in a really significant way is stress. But there's multiple kinds of stress. So there's sort of a low-level stress that we all deal with day to day. Sort of whether that's work stress or home stress, there's just sort of a low level. It's our responsibilities, it's things that we're accountable to, it's work demands. And at a low level, those things are actually good for us in a certain way. They increase our motivation to do things. Sometimes they increase our focus, our concentration, and they can increase our performance when we have some incentives to complete our task. Unfortunately, most of the time, it feels something like this. We have work, we have home, we have kids, we have school, we have cars, we have everything that we're dealing with, and stress doesn't often feel like we're managing it at a low level. It feels up here all the time because of the things that we're dealing with on a day-to-day. And high levels of stress for a long period of time can cause all kinds of physical changes in our body and health stressors. And so I listed some of those for you here, and I'm going to address some of these in talking about how we care for ourselves and manage our stress a little bit better. And one of the big things they wanted me to touch on today was holiday stress, because the holidays are coming up. And so that just got piled on to everything else that you're carrying on your list. People are trying to write lists and cutting coupons and looking for sales and getting ready for Black Friday, getting ready for family to come into town, cleaning your house, This is just my holiday list that I'm going through. So the holidays especially are a time of big stress. And these are some other common stressors. So I have the holidays down there. That's what my holidays will look like this year. We have work, we have moving, we have kids and family responsibilities. And if you notice on this slide, there's also, there's births, there's buying a new home, there's traveling. So there's even positive stress is stress, right? Even positive events in our lives can create some stress as well. We might be really excited to move but moving is a stressor. We may be really excited to have had another child. Whoa, 2 instead of 1 is a whole lot more. So even positive events can create a little bit more stress in our lives and increase that level that we're already feeling. So that low level starts to tick up on us. And then with the holidays especially, families coming into town and you've got a lot to do, or just seeing family. Holidays are kind of the perfect storm of stress because you take all of our normal day-to-day demands and you add everything to it. You add family, you add food, you add gifts, you add more finances, you add more to that. And so this is a time where it's really, really, really important to take care of ourselves. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about just taking care of yourselves during times of high stress, one of those being the holidays. And a lot of these things I'm going to talk about are not going to be new or surprising to you, but I think they are things that we, despite being pretty basic things, we let go of quite often. So how do we take care of ourselves? The biggest things in terms of taking care of yourself and managing day-to-day stress is getting good, regular, restful sleep. Pretty basic, right? We all know we need to sleep, but how often do we get that good, restful 8 hours, feeling relaxed when we wake up in the morning sleep? Never. Once in a while, one Sunday a month, never. And a lot of things get in the way of sleep. And there's a lot of things that we can do to improve our sleep just kind of on a night-to-night basis. Finding a routine that works for you. And I know routine is a scary word because how can you ever find a routine? Ever. But finding a good sleep routine that works for you. And whether you're doing it, trying to find a particular time that's this is about the time that I usually go to bed. So I'm going to make this sort of my time. And then waking up at a pretty consistent time. It helps your body find a rhythm for sleep. It helps it get used to when it's supposed to be tired and when it's supposed to wind down and when it's supposed to be awake. And developing a routine around that, giving yourself some time to wind down. As parents and caregivers, we often find that we can do that for others. We sort of say, okay, we're going to put on our pajamas, we're going to relax, we're going to read a book, and we don't ever do that for ourselves. Then we're like, okay, whew, time for me. I'm going to bed. So we don't give ourselves a lot of time to wind down. And there's some things that we want to avoid when we're trying to get good sleep. We want to avoid lots of late night caffeine, that cup of coffee after dinner because you have to do 3 more loads of laundry and you just got to stay awake. We want to avoid things like alcohol and nicotine right before we go to bed. And a lot of people say, well, alcohol makes me sleepy. And I say, initially. But it actually doesn't have a good long-term effect on your sleep because alcohol has a lot of sugars in it. And in the same way that you avoid alcohol, we want you to avoid large meals. Because once your body processes all that sugar, you're going to be a whole lot more awake than you thought you were. And so we want you to avoid those things before sleep. Turn off electronics. Unplug. So I have 3 electronic devices with me right now. If you were to think about your purse, or your car, how many electronic devices do you guys have with you right now? 2? 4? 4. Who can top 4? Anybody? Between cell phones, between tablets, between computers, between iPods, although I support music absolutely we learned that music is a great intervention. But we have electronic devices with us all the time. And we're sort of constantly in a state of plugged in, right? We're accessible, people can get to us. I think one of the best inventions for the iPhone was that do not disturb setting that you can turn on at night, that you can only let certain people kind of escape through. How many people have a TV in their bedroom? One over here. Oh, a few over here. Okay. And so turning on that TV, so electronics The thing about all those things is they are really stimulating for our brain. They do a great job waking us up. And if you're thinking in your mind, well, I can't fall asleep without the TV, or I always fall asleep in front of the TV, think about how many times you woke up to a loud commercial, or you found yourself a little bit more restless that night, because really those things serve to wake our brains up. They have a lot of colors, they have a lot of sounds, they have a lot of fast-moving things, and they really wake us up when we go to bed. And so turning off your electronics, giving yourself some wind down time, really. And I talked about this a lot with parents, especially for kids, turning those electronic things off 1 or 2 hours before bed and really giving your brain time to slow down and calm down. And then regular exercise is so important for sleep. We need to burn off some energy during the day. We need to let our bodies move, and we absolutely need regular exercise for sleep, although that is a hard one to get, and I know. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. One of the other things in terms of caring for ourselves, making sure that we get a good supply of oxygen, is diet and nutrition. And again, this isn't new. We all know we should eat healthy, we should eat right, but how often do we really get a chance to do that? I know I have eaten fast food twice this week already, and it's only Wednesday. And so hopefully I'll do better a little bit later in the week, right? But how many times do we forget to go grocery shopping, or don't have time for it, or it's the most convenient thing just to run through the drive-thru because I've got to get this kid to practice and pick this kid up from school, and maybe I'll get a chance to eat. How often do we just skip meals? That's the biggest one I hear, especially from professionals and caregivers and providers, is we just skip meals, right? I don't have time. I have a million things on my desk I have to do. I don't have time to take lunch. It'll be quieter. I can do my notes. I can do what I need to do. We skip those meals, and that's not very good for our body either. We need a good, regular supply of healthy foods to keep our body feeling energized and keep us going, or else we just get that sort of feeling. We're tired, we're more lethargic, we have more difficulty concentrating, either because we're hungry or because we're tired and feeling distracted. And so, of course, finding a meal schedule that works for you, and finding convenient access to food, and also finding access to healthy foods. Even if fast food is our most convenient option, there are some healthier options when we go through the drive-thru. We don't always have to get fries now. There's a lot of other side options. And so we can make even those choices a little bit healthier. Drink lots and lots and lots of water. You already heard it, your body is 70 to 80% water, and so we need a lot of that during the day. We need to get a lot of that back in our bodies. And avoiding sugary drinks at the same time, right? So sodas, sweet teas, lemonades, energy drinks, sports drinks have a ton of extra sugars in it that we don't often need. And when we're drinking and when we're relying on our drinks to give us sugars, then your sugars during the day are going up and down, up and down, up and down, and your energy level is probably following around that same path, going up and down, up and down, up and down. So we want to drink lots and lots of water, eat lots of fruits and vegetables. Great for your body, great for getting vitamins and minerals, great for your digestion. Really just a good idea overall. And focus on food preparations. And again, this is not new information, but when you think about baked instead of fried, and especially with the holidays coming up, this is a hard one, right? Everybody has their preferences for the holidays. Lots of butter, the butter comes out, the sugars come out, the syrups come out, the icings come out, the cookies, the treats. This is a really, really hard one to maintain during the holidays. So explore some new recipes this year, okay? Or focus on your portion control this year. We are all going to be turkey tired come Thursday because our plates just get bigger and bigger and bigger because there's so much food around all the time, right? So I encourage people, especially during the holidays, distance yourself from your food a little bit. My family, we tend to congregate right around the kitchen area, so food is just sort of always readily available. Well, we took some seating out of the kitchen this year, and hopefully we're going to move people away from direct sources of food. Make sure you have to get up to get your second plate, right? And so sometimes if we have to get up, we're a lot less likely to do that. And so we really, during the holidays, have to focus on what we're eating, how we're eating it. And even just those sort of little tricks and tools can help us a little bit, maintaining a little bit more healthy eating and a little bit just more awareness of what it is we are eating. If I have to get up to get my next cookie, I know exactly how many times I've gotten up right? Trying to avoid grazing. We talked about getting on a good, consistent meal schedule, but if we're grazing all day, right? So if we're taking, every time I walk through the kitchen, I get something, right? Because I'm not really sitting down to eat a meal. I'm opening my drawer at my desk and pulling out that snack when I need it. I'm probably grazing most of the day, and I don't actually have good awareness of everything that I'm putting into my body when I'm just kind of grab and go here and there. And it's probably not all the healthy stuff that I need. This last one is a big one that I talk about with all the patients that I work with, keeping your plates colorful. So when you go to McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or wherever you go for your quick food, and you open that up, like everything is all sort of one color, right? It's brown, it's tan, it's French fries, it's hamburgers, it's all that really good stuff, but it's all one color. It's not colorful at all. We have a really bland plate. And so I tell people all the time to make your plate colorful. And this is something that you'll think about when you leave here today. What kind of colors are on my plate, and how can I add color to my plate? And sometimes it's just as simple as adding another color to your plate that really increases that healthy food, those healthy food choices. It's helpful with kids, it's helpful with family members. It's great at the holidays to have kids go through the buffet and sort of try and make a really colorful plate. Or when you're shopping, to have everybody kind of go on a scavenger hunt for particular colors within the produce department, right? Because they're going to find those particular colors in other departments, but within that sort of produce department, right? And so it's a great way just to increase a little bit more of a healthy diet and healthy eating practices when you're thinking about how colorful your plate is. Let's see. But when we're eating well and our body feels good, it allows us to feel a lot better. Physical activity. And you knew I'd come back to this because I hinted at it with sleep. And I like my pictures. It's physics, right? Bodies in motion, or bodies at rest tend to stay at rest, and bodies in motion tend to stay in motion, right? But we have to balance that. We have to find a balance in our day. And so it's been studied, of course, the importance of physical activity. Again, not surprising to you, but it's been studied in a number of different ways. Just 20 minutes a day of exercise, or 20 minutes 3 to 5 times a week, has significant benefits for your blood pressure, for your lungs, for your heart, and your energy level overall. And exercise is so important, again, for getting that good sleep. So everything ties in together: diet, exercise, sleep, and all of which are so important just in terms of taking care of ourselves. And again, I know that this sounds like the basics, but so often these are the things that we're not doing, that we're not taking time to do, and that we're not even really aware of anymore. I asked somebody earlier, I was talking to them, I said, well, what time did you go to bed last night? And they sat there, they thought about it, they could not remember, they had no idea when they went to bed. They knew what time they woke up this morning because they had to get a kid on the bus, but they had no idea what time they went to bed. They couldn't remember. They could tell me everything they did when they weren't sleeping, but they have no idea how much sleep they got. And it makes it so much harder when we're trying to get through our day, when we're trying to work, when we're trying to focus, when we're trying to be available to other people. If we're not getting good sleep, if we're not getting that good supply of oxygen, we're not really going to be able to help or assist anybody else, right? So physical activity, it does not require a gym. Okay, there are a lot of ways to increase your physical activity during the day. Just increasing your step count, parking a little bit further away, taking the stairs when you can, taking an extra walk before that evening meal. It gets a little bit harder because I know it's getting darker earlier. So this time of year is particularly hard with the holidays. Again, we have more stress, more demands. It gets a little bit darker, a little earlier, and it's also a little bit colder. And so people tell me about a lot more obstacles to getting exercise during these months. But there are still a lot of ways. There's a lot of indoor exercises. There's a lot of ways to increase family exercise goals. And do some exercises during commercial breaks. Just to take a 5-minute break and stand and stretch at your desk. How often, and I'm guilty of this too, I don't realize how long I've been sitting and haven't stood up to stretch, right? I haven't had anything to drink all day. I have just been sitting, or I've been going from room to room to room, and I forget sort of everything about myself. That's when I start skipping meals. That's when I start realizing that I haven't done anything for myself in about 4 hours. And so we have to make that time. And this is one way to do it. Get up, do some stretches, take a lap around work, grab some people at lunch and take a walk. A lot of workplaces now have put in some wellness promotions. They've done yoga at lunch, they've done meditation at lunch. Utilize that time, whatever time you have, even if it's just minutes, to really increase some of that activity that you get during the day, because it will increase your energy level. And a lot of times you know that physical activity produces those great endorphins in our body, and they have a significant benefit to our mood, to our overall mood and our ability to offer that to others. Okay. One of the biggest things that I talk to people about is just being aware of your own needs. Again, we tend to put ourselves last. As much as that oxygen mask analogy makes a lot of sense, we don't often follow it. We really tend to put ourselves at the lowest sort of point in the day, and usually it's right around the time that I'm going to bed that I think about what I need from me. Or I think about, man, what I've done today, and have I actually had anything to drink or eat? And so we need to be able to put ourselves on a little bit higher on that list. We need to be able to check in with ourselves regularly and kind of increase our awareness of our needs. And again, especially during the holidays, things start to really spin for us. Routines and schedules go way out the window. Kids are out of school. People are coming in from out of town. Maybe we're traveling. We're taking time off. We're trying to get everything done before we go somewhere. We're trying to get everything done before everyone comes to us. And so it's harder and harder to find a routine point in your day, right? We may not have our lunch break, or we may not have our morning routine because our kids aren't in school, but we need to be able to find time to be aware of ourselves and aware of our needs. As caregivers, as providers, as parents, as partners, as siblings, as everything, okay? Accessing regular health care, remembering to take care of yourself. You guys are probably providing a significant amount of care for other people, and we also want to make sure that we're taking care of our own bodies and we're taking care of our own personal care. And set some additional health goals for yourself, but also realistic goals. Think about that thing that you've been trying to kick or work on for a long time. If it's increasing your activity, if it's, this is the year I'm going to quit smoking, if it's, I want to cut down on my sweets. Really set your own personal goals, but set realistic goals. And be compassionate with yourself, because again, I just want to stress that the holidays are a time without a lot of routine and pretty overwhelming, and so it's not always the best time to try a new habit, but it is a good time to sort of evaluate where you're at and what you think you need. Finding work-life balance, always difficult. When we leave work, we don't often leave work. I take my computer home with me. So I know that I take a lot of my work home, but we also need to find a way to maintain some balance in that area, which if any of you figure out how to do that exactly, you should let me know, because I'm still working on that myself. But it is important when we come home, we have a new set of expectations, and sometimes making room for that and being able to transition from one to the other. Giving yourself some transition time, listening to an extra song in the car radio before you turn it off, right? Giving yourself some extra time to transition from those work demands to those home demands, and making sure that some part in that day is enjoyable for you and allows you some of that transition time. Build and utilize your own support system. We need our own support. We can't just care for others and give ourselves all the time and be other support people without needing a little bit of that ourselves. Are there friends we haven't talked to in a really long time? Are there, oh, sorry, my battery's running low. That's what it means when you gotta hurry up. So build and utilize your own supports. Take care of yourself and make time for that. Okay, and so then we're going to transition to talking a little bit about caring for others, which is what you guys do, I know, just about every day. And we care for a lot more people than we probably recognize. We can acknowledge a lot of professional care, but we can also care for friends, we care for partners, we care for spouses, children, family members, everybody. We care for a lot of people. And at some point, you know, everybody struggles with certain things like low mood or anxiety or nervousness or high stress. And it's not necessarily at sort of a clinical or diagnosable level, but all of us deal with that at different times and different stages in our life. But 4 in 5 adults annually do experience a diagnosable mental illness. About 17 out of 25 are living with what we call a severe and persistent mental illness, something that they'll probably manage over the course of their lifetime. And 1 in 5 children experience that. And suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death in individuals 10 to 24. And so even another statistic is that about half of these youth and adults aren't going to seek treatment. They're not going to seek support. And most often we're going to encounter some of these people in our lives. It's going to be coworkers. It's going to be patients that we work with. It's going to be friends, acquaintances, family members. And we're likely going to encounter this. So what do we do about that? How do we take care of ourselves and be available for others? And is that comfortable for us? Do we have enough energy for that? Have we taken care of ourselves? Do we have enough of our own oxygen supply to give a little bit more to other people and be able to manage that? So I listed some signs and symptoms of sort of individuals having a more difficult time, increased sort of depression, increased anxiety, things that you'd look for. And there's more on this page. But in general, you're going to notice maybe some significant changes. You're going to notice someone who's, especially the holiday times, you're having a lot of family and friends come together. You're going to notice someone who's just maybe not feeling quite like themselves, who's a little more isolated, who's usually like right in the middle of the holiday party, but is just not really doing it this year, who's not as chatty or talkative, who's maybe been experiencing something over the course of the year. Especially if we see people sort of once or twice a year, they might have been experiencing all kinds of things. And the holiday is also a big time where grief surfaces. Holidays, anniversaries, birthdays, people really recall, and losses become very salient. And so sometimes we just have to ask people how they're doing over the course of the holidays. How are you doing? Who are you remembering? What kind of traditions are you trying to recreate this year? What might be different about a holiday this year? It might be the first holiday or time that someone has done that without their partner, friend. And so that is something that comes up a lot around this time of year. Okay. And so caring for others. The first bullet, of course, is making space for that awareness of others. And again, that really ties into caring for ourselves. We have to be able to care for ourselves so that we have a little bit more to go ahead and be aware of what others want from us. Put words to your concerns. It's okay to ask. Sometimes people are going to tell us no. They're not quite going to be ready to address that with us, but it's okay to ask. And maybe now that you've acknowledged concern or you've acknowledged that you're there for them, they'll be more comfortable in talking to you next time. Being open to a conversation, right? So when we ask, we need to be willing and able to listen. I talk to people a lot about building the support system that you need, right? I have 3 older brothers. I call my oldest brother for sort of logistical, practical support, right? Like I need a problem solver right now. I call my middle brother when I need more of an emotional, like how you doing, things are okay, support. And I call my 3rd brother when I need a little bit of both. And so being really aware of those relationships in your life and calling the right person. But then that also falls on us when we're caring for others. What kind of support are they looking for? Are they looking for me to problem solve with them? Because, how many times has someone said something to you and you've gone to offer advice and they have completely shut down, right? That's not what they want in the moment. They don't want advice. They just want you to hear, right? They just want you to sit with them and acknowledge that they're feeling something or dealing with something, and maybe just need to share that with you. But they don't need you to solve it or fix it or change it. They just need you to hear it. And sometimes we do need advice, right? I need you to help me figure this out. I'm really stuck. I'm really struggling right now. Help me work through this. Give me some suggestions. Help me identify some resources. Educate yourself. If someone is struggling with something that even a diagnosable mental illness or a long-term chronic health condition, educate yourself a little bit on how you could be more of a support for them and allow them to educate you on what they're needing. what type of support they are needing in that moment. Recognize your personal limits. Again, this comes back to caring for yourself and having a good flow of oxygen. Recognizing that we can't be everything to everyone, and that sometimes we can't be the only support that someone has. And so increasing your awareness of other support systems, other support people, and being able to share that and not feel like you have to take total responsibility for what someone else might be going through. Because sometimes it can feel like, whoa, they just put that whole thing on me and I have no idea what to do with all that. Or now I'm completely overwhelmed. What do I do? Who do I go to? Where do I go next? And so being aware of some of those additional supports that you have. And that's how we really promote community wellness. And so there's various community resources that I have listed on our slides. And these are some crisis resources in our community, which are always nice to be aware of. And crisis stabilization units, some alcohol and drug resource centers in and around our community, some veterans resources in our community, and sort of nationally there's a lot of programs for that. And I got a lot of these resources off of the Mental Health Association of East Tennessee, which is a really, really great website when you're looking for community resources, available resources. When you need a little bit extra, when you need a little bit more on your team to support the people in your day-to-day lives. NAMI is a great national program for providers, caregivers, family members. And it's the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and they come and they speak about mental illness in our communities, in our homes, and they are a really great institution. Also, the National Institute of Mental Health and SAMHSA are really great resources. So I just wanted to present some of those to you guys today in terms of accessing broader community networks, because sometimes we need that. We need to call in some reinforcement, and we need to know what's out there to do that. But in the end, and over the course of the holidays, we really, really want you, and I started with this and I'll end with this, to take care of yourself, to make sure that you have that good flow of oxygen so that you can be available to others. Okay? Thank you.